So last week I had the chance to talk at an event with, I think, somewhere around 50 recruiters about how we use AI at ClearPath. And a lot of the questions were pretty interesting that I was receiving during, my presentation, but also while I was networking and talking with people. And so I wanted to kind of unpack those questions during this quick video for people who couldn't make it. The first question that kept coming up is, how do I get started, right? And it's the question I got the most, and I keep getting that question. When people ask me, where do I start? What they're really asking is, how do I know I'm not going to waste my time, right? Like, AI is such a hyped up and broad topic right now. Like, you see people doing crazy things with it. You're sitting there thinking, okay, how do I actually get from zero to that level, or at least to do something useful, right? And I think the issue that often people have is they haven't really spent much time on identifying bottlenecks in their life, or in this instance in their job, right? Like, and I think that's where everything starts, right? It's like, look at what you're doing every day. Like, look at your KPIs. Why are you, for example, maybe not hitting them? Or if you do hit them, what stops you from doubling them, right? For example, like just the ability to reverse engineer based on a system that's already in place, and try to identify, areas where you're wasting time and things that you're like, man, I keep doing this stuff and I know it's stupid. Like, creating a branded job description, or creating a blind resume, for example. That kind of stuff where like, this has no value from me knowing I need to do it and decide I'm going to do it. Like, I can spend my time doing way better things, right? So what I'm trying to say is, like, people often they haven't identified any bottlenecks yet, right? And so if you identify a bottleneck in a very precise way, all you need to do next is like, go to an AI agent and say, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's the problem, help me out by doing some deep search on the web, maybe find some open source projects or whatnot, and help me out improving and do this in a more efficient way, right? Because I think, and from there, just, start experimenting, right? Try things out and see where it goes. I often talk about this to people, but I think I have a huge advantage as someone being a dropout. Like, I had to learn while working and making money. And I think a lot of people haven't been forced yet to learn how to learn since their university days, so to speak, right? And so they often look at learning as a very binary thing between I know or I don't. Like, I fail or I get a degree kind of thing. And people like me, I look at everything as a progression bar, right? Like, all I really control is the input. And my only job is really to kind of increase that progression bar, so to speak. That's personally how I look at those things. And so when you're starting from zero and you're asking that question, like, where do I start? Even learning a little bit is like, you win. Like, today is a good day, right? Like, you shouldn't be worried about starting in the wrong direction. You're starting from zero, so to speak, right? And I do have that mindset that I like to share to people because it makes everything a lot easier. I will recommend, also spend some time on learning the fundamentals. I keep sending that one video to people, which is where Andrej Karpathy, one of the co-founders of OpenAI, and pretty much an AI genius. His channel is like, I don't know, 10, 12 videos where he's kind of really explaining how LLMs work and how transformers work. And the more you understand how all this works, the more you can start to kind of ask yourself the right questions as well. Like, if it works like that, how can I use it in my life, right? And the more you understand the power of it, the more you are able to look at how you function and be critical and say, okay, this is ridiculous. There has to be a better way, right? I think a lot of the skills that you develop when it comes to the utilization of tech in general, or tools in general, is like the ability to kind of be critical of your own work and say, okay, I'm pretty sure I can do better, right? And AI is such a great tool for that, because it will really help you get quicker to that, to the answers on how to do things better. So anyway, that will be the first question unpacked. Another one that I keep getting, and I don't want to spend even too much time on that one, it's like, which AI should I use? I don't know why people stress about this. I assume it's the same logic as the first question, where they're worried about wasting their time in the wrong place. But again, you don't know how to use anything, so you can't really go wrong by going one option out there. And if I was in a situation where I had to start over again and I knew nothing, my strategy would be to just follow the hype. Like, use what everyone uses, because that will keep you going, right? There's always going to be content out there. There's going to be a lot of documentation about it, a lot of tutorials, a lot of examples. Your friends might be using it. So I will always kind of go for what's being used the most, not necessarily the best option, but what's being used the most. And because I think that makes learning a lot easier and accessible. Once you start understanding the fundamentals a little bit better and the basics, I think you start to really understand that it's really not about which model you use, but really about how do you actually use that technology. Like I think it's very important to try as much tools as possible so that you're never kind of locked into a specific vendor. And so I'm kind of constantly switching between Claude, OpenAI. I use a bit of Gemini. I'm about to use XAI thing, Grok, I think, as well right now, which I'm kind of looking into. So I think this is how you stay sharp in this whole journey, is like just try new stuff and again just consume content. But yeah, in the beginning, it really does matter. At the end of the day, all those tools are built with the same technology, right? Which are like transformers and LLMs, I guess. And so yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Because I think one of the things that people also tend to do is like over comparing stuff just to procrastinate getting started and failing, right? I've seen this with friends of mine who wanted to start creating content. They would spend like 3 months studying which microphone to buy. Meanwhile, it's like, mate, you got a microphone in your phone. I see that really in the same way, like, like the analysis paralysis kind of thing. Third question that I got a couple of times during the event was like, do you think I'm going to lose my job? My answer is a bit maybe not assuring, but I do believe yes, you will lose your job. If you do not redefine where you provide value in your current position, you will probably lose your job. Like, let's just go from the assumption that you will, so that at least it forces you to kind of skill up and educate yourself with some sense of urgency. Because look, either you're wrong and you're not losing your job and life is going to be good and you will actually upskill and be more competitive, or we're right and you're actually ready, right? So why am I thinking that a lot of recruiters will lose their job? It's because I think if you don't really spend much time now understanding how AI works and how all those systems are going to impact the tasks that are kind of composing your job and the reason you get paid for, is you're not going to have the ability to really identify the human mode in your job. And the human mode meaning what is something that you can do but AI can't, right? It's quite difficult to have to be able to identify that if you don't really know what AI can actually do, if that makes sense. And you can only know truly what AI can do through using it yourself. Because if you just follow or listen to whatever the industry is saying and you don't really participate, this is going to be a massive source of anxiety. So look, at the end of the day, look at your job and try to really break it down into tasks and be very honest with yourself. Maybe ask GPT or an AI, like, among all those tasks, which ones are you able to take on right now with minimum context? It's going to be, pretty revealing, I guess. And then you have two choices, right? Start to really focus on like the human mode aspect. Like, you're not getting paid to solve tasks. You're getting paid to solve problems, and those problems happen to be composed of specific tasks leading you to solve a problem. But so now it's just about, okay, how can you kind of solve more problems and get quicker through the tasks using AI? I guess that's kind of the way I look at it. And it's pretty hard to think about it that way if you have no clue how things work. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I do think a lot of recruiters will lose their jobs, yeah. Including myself, by the way. I'm not safe myself. So this is why I spend so much time upskilling and looking for some other things that I can do and other areas where I can create value. So this is not like, talking from a higher position, so to speak. And the last question that I had, which I really enjoyed, was if I had to start over today, when it comes to my education around AI and tech, what would I do differently, right? My answer to that is I would spend an entire week, literally an entire week, before touching AI, before doing anything. I will just spend an entire week thinking about the problem that I'm solving, all the tasks, and build up what I call a decision tree. I will break down my entire, journey from, I guess, acquiring a job to work on as a recruiter to closing a role and getting the money hit my bank account. I will break everything down in the most detailed way possible. Like, what do I start my day with and how do we get to a placement? I'll try to really build that up from a decision tree framework, if that makes sense, where, okay, what do I do today? Do I do this? Do I work a job? Do I do BD? If so, why? And just break everything down so that you can kind of really build an operational system around that. Because once you have all the components of what makes you money, which is making placements, you can now really start to brainstorm with AI, with engineers on, okay, how do we take that component away in the most reliable way possible, so I don't have to spend time there anymore, and more time on what tends to give you the most money is meeting people and closing deals, right? So I will spend so much time on that right away. It took me a while to kind of do that. And if I had to start over, that's where I will start right away. It's like, okay, how do I break down? Because AI does know that stuff, and we all work in a pretty unique way as recruiters. So it's going to be important for you to really map everything out in that decision tree. That's what I've done, and I think it has given me the most leverage when it comes to using tech. So anyway, I just want to unpack those quick questions, and hopefully, I can do another event like that in the future. I'm super keen to talk with more people that use AI in recruitment, specifically agency recruitment, entrepreneurs who are, trying to leverage this to make a living, etc. So feel free to reach out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.